So thanks for tuning in again. We're back with another question from a patron, and we thought it'd be fun to talk about books that come in different kinds of formats. So our first question comes from Haley, and she's interested in books in a unique format because it might be hard to read books cover to cover or just kind of straight through right now. So it might be cool to talk a little bit about unique books. So anybody have any thoughts?
Before we say anything, I have to say that patron's recommendation made me go out and buy the trilogy. So I can't remember who it was by. Can you remember the book that she talked about? It was called
Illumini.
And it's a trilogy. And it just looked so beautiful, so visual. It was amazing. It's fantastic. So I was so excited about it. I showed it to my son. And he talked about a foundation online, and it's called the SCP Foundation, which means secure, contain, and protect. And it's just weird. There's all kinds of weird stories in there. It's all fiction. People write things about different incursions, aliens. You just hit on a number. It's called the SCP Foundation. And so if anybody's interested in that weird kind of stuff, I'd say it's worth a look.
I'm glad that you got the series, Joseph. I want to hear what you think of it when you read it.
Oh, and they're such big books too. They're really nice to hold.
The audiobooks apparently are really good too.
Oh, okay.
Who reads them? Do you know?
I don't. It's a full cast.
Oh, cool. I love it when you do that. And you know what? That just made me think of a book that's weird, that fits the bill. And that would be Lincoln in the Bardo by George Saunders. Anything by George Saunders is weird. His brain does not work like anyone else's. His short stories go where you don't think they're going to go. But Lincoln in the Bardo is the audiobook, especially because it's got people like David Sedaris and Nick Offerman and Leslie Knope doing all the different voices of the characters in the graveyard. You'd like it, Joseph. It's a trip. It's a trip. So that's a suggestion for a book that's kind of unusual.
Do we have any other book suggestions of unique formatted books?
So one of the first books that came to mind for me, and I always get the title wrong, I mix it up with his other book, is Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close by Jonathan Safran Foer. Have any of you guys read it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought about that with the unique formats. For those of you who haven't read it, it's actually narrated by a 9-year-old boy named Oscar, whose father passed away on September 11th in the World Trade Center attacks. And about a year after his father passes away, he finds this key in his dad's old closet with the label Black on it. And so with his 9-year-old self, he goes to the phone book. You can tell how long ago this is written. And he looks for all of the families or people with the last name Black. And he goes and travels throughout New York City trying to find all of these people to find the lock that the key fits into. So it's a really moving story, kind of bittersweet, but kind of darkly humorous at the same time. But where the unique formatting comes in, there's actually a subplot about his grandfather in World War II, and that's told with a lot of photos and interesting graphics. And there's a lot of play with the placement of the text also, which is kind of interesting. So that was one of the books I thought of, and it was just a really good story too.
Oh, thank you, Susan. You've kind of reminded me of the book because I read it, but it makes me want to read it again, actually. So thanks, yeah.
It was good.
Sorry, cut my own hair.
You remind me of I can't believe I didn't think about this. Miss Peregrine's Home for
That was
Peculiar.
on my list too.
Oh,
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that book.
Yeah.
Grace.
Okay, another one, I just remembered another one that I was thinking of bringing up, but I wish I had a prop for this. Do you guys remember the Griffin and Sabine books?
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember them?
We'll say yes.
They were written in the form of postcards. Like you guys don't remember these? They were really cool. They were, as a person who worked in retail at the time, they were a pain because people would take them apart and leave pieces all over the store. Or send them, but whatever. They were pretty cool. It was sort of like a pop-up book for adults kind of thing. And it was the first one of its kind. And it was romantic and it was mysterious. People like that crap. So there you go.
I have a book here that I love. Oh my gosh, I have to talk about it. I talk about it all the time. It's called Voices, and it's the final hours of Joan of Arc.
Oh, yeah.
This was amazing. And it doesn't have anything that comes out of it. So, but the format it's like told in verse. I want to find like a really cool picture. So there's these like concrete poems.
It's beautiful.
And then there's like narrative. And there's these like historical bits that came from like records. It's really good. And then there's like the fire is like actually like a character. It's really cool book. And it's super short. So if you're having trouble sitting and paying attention to something.
Who's it by again, Jacqueline?
David Elliott. And technically it's like a YA book, but anybody would love this. So Rhoda, you didn't read this book then?
No, I did not. Whitney read it and loved it, which is like I read it because she would talk about it all the time.
I know nothing. I love J.J. Abrams.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I feel like that's enough of an endorsement.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a really weird book, and I love it so much, even though I haven't read it. It comes in that little like box, and it's called The Ship of Theseus by V.M. Straka.
Mm-hmm.
And it has this really old library barcode, or not, spine label. And it's unique because it's a story within a story. So you have like the actual story, The Ship of Theseus, but then running through it, you have all these like conversational bits between two people that tells like a different story. So you really have to like kind of, I feel like this is something you have to sit and like spread out in front of you, because it also has stuff stuck inside of it. A lot of stuff stuck inside of it, to the point where I'm afraid I'm gonna lose it. But like, look at this.
It's
Look
beautiful.
at how intricate it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I have to have one.
It's so cool. Look, here's a postcard.
Yeah. When you look it up, like the word most used to describe it is stunning.
It is. I mean, and you can tell like the binding is like that old library binding.
Mhm.
Mm.
I love it so much. Try it out. I think we have it at the library, actually. We do.
We do.
Both of you.
And it's
I'm thinking we do. That's
And-
the book that I was trying to remember. It's beautiful, and it goes out on Mel a lot.
Wow.
and it's what can I say? It's cataloged under VM Straka or whatever, and that's where it is on the shelf.
Did we actually talk about House of Leaves?
No, we should.
I wasn't sure whether or not to bring it up.
I think you should.
It's kind of a polarizing book. You love it or you hate it.
I definitely wouldn't recommend it to just anyone. Although I read it in high school, so I feel like I should go back and look at it again, which I don't really recommend that either. But
Can you give me the author?
Daniel Lesky. Do you need me to spell it?
It's up to you.
I don't think I can, so
it's
it's
a Polish
Daniel
name.
Lesky.
it like there's multiple narrators. Like I think that kind of going in the structure order, there's this like tattoo artist who's sort of the main narrator. But he is totally unreliable. Like he's high and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And he finds this manuscript in this dead guy's apartment. And so he starts reading the manuscript. And then there's another story kind of happening in the manuscript that's sort of the horror story about this screwed up house. This family buys this house and everything's fine. They go on this trip and then they come back and they find this door there that wasn't there before, or this closet or something. And they start exploring and the house just sort of like expands. And so it's kind of like this maze-like situation. And they hear this really weird like growling sound and they're trying to figure out what that is. I'm not describing it very well, but it's really freaking terrifying. And people start to go insane. Like, I think people die from what I can remember. It's just
What you haven't blocked out.
yeah, oh God. I mean, I read it several years ago, but it was just a messed up book. But there's tons of different formats. Yay.
That reminds me of the book our book group read, that 10,000 Doors of January book.
Yes.
Oh.
And that was actually, it wasn't bad. It was pretty good, but it was kind of a similar similar premise. The protagonist finds a door and goes through it and ends up in a completely different world. And she's from, like, her members of her family are these rare people that they see these doors that no one else sees. And then so it's kind of fantastical because of when she goes through these doors, the world she ends up in are not of this world. And then it's also, there's a mystery because someone keeps burning down the doors and she's trying to get back to her parents. And it was good. It was structurally kind of different because every other chapter was written from a different time, and it would fit the bill. It's called The 10,000 Doors of January. So,
and it's by Alex Harrow, Harrow.
Did you read it, Josepha?
I did. I actually listened to it on audio.
Oh, how was that?
Pardon? Well, the audio was good, but the trouble I had with the book was that young girl character who was very much a victim for a part of the book. It was driving me nuts. That character.
Yeah, she was a little whiny.
So much. Yeah. And so sometimes when you've got a character like that and it's in audio, depending on how it's read, it can add to the irritation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think as we've moved on a little bit to the structure of the book being a different format, I'm wondering if This Is How You Lose the Time War might be a good book. Has anybody else read that one?
Mm-mm.
It's by Amar El-Mohtar, El-Mohtar. It's a very short book, and I did actually listen to it on audio, but it's time traveling again, but it's very, very strange. It's actually a love story, and these two figures, they actually come in at different points within a timeline to try and change things. So they kind of go back in time, the forward, and they're like figures, like angels, really, kind of in a way, kind of intersecting with events and trying to change things. But it was just so beautifully written as well. But it was a strange construct that it was going on. I'm not sure I would have got on very well with it if I was reading it. Being on audio was great. It was great. And the Starless Sea is a little bit like that too. Those whole things that you're talking about with the doors and the doorways.
Mm-hmm.
In the Starless Sea, has anybody read that one?
Not yet.
So that's the next one written by Erin Morgenstern after The Night Circus.
Mm-hmm.
But without spoiling anything, a lot of it is also creating doors, and the doors are painted, and the people can travel through the doors, and they're going down and down and down in an elevator and down. They're looking for the Starless Sea, which obviously is a reference, to lots of different things. But it's another one. There's like, I think the theme is doorways.
Mhm.
Doorways to other worlds and other
Mhm.
times. Wonderful.
Cool.
That's what we need right now.
Yeah.
Indeed.
In our apartments. we
Yeah, I
need-
would like one right now. Can I stay?
yeah, we just draw a door.
Mhm. I just thought of another book though,
Sorry.
Go for it.
of an unusual format, which I started and had to bring back, and I'm gonna check. I wish I would have checked it out for this. It's called Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ellman, and it's this like 1,000-page book that's one sentence.
Wow.
And it's just this stream of consciousness of this woman. Although I guess I shouldn't say it's one sentence. And then interspersed, there are chapters about a mountain lion. And I know it sounds insane, but it was a finalist for the Man Booker Prize. And I did start it, and I really liked it. I've read other books by this author, and she's a trip. Yeah, that's a book of an unusual format. Let's just put it that way.
I remember you saying how much you really were enjoying reading that. So
But it was going to be overdue, and I really wish I still had it right now. This would be the perfect time to read it.
So graphic novels.
Who's that graphic novel I ordered? Oh, the Mueller Report is coming out in graphic novel form.
Yes. When is that? I forgot.
I don't know. I should check, because I know I ordered it because I thought this is perfect for all the people that can't quite wrap their mind about reading
The actual
The report.
right, exactly, because it's dry.
Mhm.
So there's that. But
I'd like to read that.
pardon me?
I'd like to read that.
Yeah, me too.
Has anyone heard of Nimona, the graphic novel? It was published like 4 or 5
yeah.
years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I think everybody would love this book. It's so much fun. It's really silly, really quirky. So basically there's this villain, like Lord, I think his name is Lord Blackheart or Lord Ballister. All of their names are kind of funny. And yeah, he's a villain, he's been banished. He's doing his villainous stuff. And this girl comes to his door one day, and she's like, so I'm a big fan of your work. I'm a big fan of violence. Can I be your sidekick? And he's like, I don't know. I don't really want a sidekick. But then he discovers that she's a shapeshifter. And for example, she often shapeshifts into a shark. And he thought that could be kind of useful. So he decides to take her on. And so it's just about a lot of different things. It's super fun, but they get into a lot of mischief, and he kind of has to calm her down because she gets really crazy on the violence. But it is teen friendly, by the way, I should say that. But yeah, Nimona's a really complex character. She has some secrets from her past she's trying to hide. And eventually they discover this plot. So the book really kind of explores the relationship between good and evil, and it plays with those archetypes a lot. And the main hero, supposedly, of the story, his name is Sir Goldenloin, and he's the head of I know. Sorry, I had to say it. And he's the head of their law enforcement, but they kind of discover some secrets about him, so they're trying to put a stop to that, and it's just hilarious and an adventure, and I recommend it. It won tons of awards, I think, the year it was published. Like, it was on everybody's best book list. I think it was a shortlisted for the National Book Award. It's just everyone I know who's read it loves it. So
I always recommend with graphic novels, The Prince and the Dressmaker. Do you guys know that one?
I remember you talking about it.
It's so good. And I think it's going to be an animated movie.
Cool.
Wow.
And I hope I'm not making all this stuff up because I'm just like, but I think that the duo that wrote all the songs for Frozen is going to be writing songs for that.
Wow.
I'll know how catchy those are.
Mhm.
So I think it's gonna be really good. But The Prince and the Dressmaker is so well done. Jen Wang, I think. Yeah, I have it. It's about a young prince whose family is going to France to help him find a wife because he's eventually going to take over the throne. And he's just not like super interested in all of that. He's really interested in clothes, and his like kind of secret passion is dressing up in women's gowns. And he loves how beautiful they are. He's all about fabrics, and his best friend becomes a dressmaker. Her name is Frances. And they start like gallivanting around town at night as the stylish fashion Parisian icon, Lady Crystalia.
Awesome.
And it kind of launches her dressmaking career, and they fall in love. It's so cute.
It sounds great.
Mhm.
It's so great. It's so great. So
Those. The one I keep annoying everyone about is called The Best We Could Do. Yeah, sorry, Jacqueline. That's one I read maybe a year ago, and it was just amazing. So the author is writing about her family who left Vietnam in the 1970s, and they came to America. So the first part of the book really focuses on their struggle to escape and what they went through and what her parents went through before she and her siblings were born in Vietnam. And then it talks about their struggles in America and dealing with prejudice, but also kind of coming to terms what had happened to them and relationships within their family. But the artwork is gorgeous. It's haunting, honestly, but it's the most incredible book. Really good story. That's one I always like to recommend to people.
And actually, Stitches by David Small. He is an illustrator of children's books, and I think his parents, one of them had Munchausen by proxy syndrome, so that they were always kind of like taking him to the doctor and saying he was sick, and really strange things happen. It's amazing that he is as kind and well-adjusted a person as he is.
wow.
Do you want a young person's book? Do you want
Yeah, always.
that book that I talked about earlier called The Imaginaries? It's kind of full of scraps of words. Ask the monkey what he knows. It's called Little Scraps of Larger Stories.
Interesting.
It has these beautiful pictures in them. Can you see them?
Mm-hmm.
And then just this like interesting like little envelope on here, scrap of paper. Her heart was the kind that beat like a bird's wings. So there's just like these kind of like little pieces of language. And I think it kind of generates just your own stories, really. It's so cute. That's by Emily Winfield Martin.
Oh, okay. Thanks for listening to us ramble on, and we're going to do it again in a couple weeks. So if there's anything that you want us to recommend, let us know.
Perfect.
Bye.
Oh, Bear says goodbye.